The next topic we're covering is focus groups. And focus groups are really just group discussions that are led by someone who called the group together as some sort of moderator. This is the person often who wants to know something in particular, and they have a particular topic they want to know about. For instance, do you like this new brand? Do you like the way this political candidate is presenting themselves? Do you like the packaging on this new product? What do people think or feel about this particular topic? So it can be useful in lots of perspectives. It is not limited in how you can analyze the data, so you can have a very interpretive approach. You can have a critical cultural approach in trying to understand how people create meaning. But one of the most common ways that it tends to be used is in mass media and advertising. Should we have our advertisements look like this or like that? And you kind of get a sense of what that looks like in a focus group. Here's a general sense of what these tend to look like. No surprise. It is literally just people sitting around a table and they're having a conversation. There's often the moderator, so in this person, the woman to the left, is leading the discussion. She has some particular points she would like people to discuss, but you tend to leave it open to the people in the room to discuss what seems to be pertinent to them. So you never know what you're going to get when you bring people together. So why bother to do this? Well, you get a lot of different points of view. So it can be a lot more efficient. So if I wanted to do 100 interviews, that's going to take 100 different sessions, and it's going to take a lot of time to get all those people together. But I could bring 8 to 10 people in a room a couple of times, and I could get a larger sample relatively quickly. The other thing is that once you have the conversation between people happening, they tend to have a life of their own, and you get information that you wouldn't normally have expected. So you get this sort of group effect. What is it that people tend to think? So you might have one person who mentioned that they didn't like the brand because of the color, but no one else mentioned that. Well, if I had them all separate, then I would kind of, maybe I'll just ignore what that one person had to say. But when they're all in a room and someone says that, and they can say, yeah, now that you say that, I totally agree. And so you get a sense of how the group thinks and feels about a topic that you wouldn't necessarily get individually. So you kind of get a sense if one individual response resonates with the rest of the group, or if that individual really is just one person who thinks that. So why would you do this? What is the use? Well, you can do this for a lot of different reasons. So bringing people together and having them all sit around and discuss, you can identify what the problem seems to be with a particular issue. So what is going on? What is the issue? What do people really feel in their daily lives that needs to be corrected? So it's hard to present a solution if you don't know what the real problem is for people. It also allows you to kind of toy with the planning and implementation of something. So if you have a campaign, for instance, you are trying to be successful with, you can find out if people would actually see it. You can find out if people understand it, and how to make sure that people access it, as well as the assessment. Do you like this? So we know what the problem is, we know how to get it to you, but is this working? And that's a totally different question. And so a focus group can allow you to get a sense of all of those pieces. Now, when you ask questions in a focus group, just like in an interview, you want to keep it relatively conversational. You don't want to get caught up in jargon. It should be just a pleasant conversation. You give people enough time to talk. But you have a kind of a question guide or a question route that you want to get into. So these are the things I want to make sure that I touch upon, but I will allow the conversation to steer itself. So if there's a particular topic that the group in front of me seems really intent on talking about it, I will allow them to talk about it because it seems to matter to them. Then I want to get a sense of what that is and why it matters. But at a certain point, I might steer them on to the next topic that I still want to get some information on. So how do you even do one of these? So the quick and dirty version is you need a place, right? You need a location, a table and some chairs. Oftentimes people are paid or they provide a lunch to have people come sit together. You need some sort of recording devices, whether you're doing it with pen and paper, whether you're doing audio recording or you're doing video recording. You need to have some way to document what was said. You need your discussion guide. So how do you want to move through the topics? What do you want to ask? What are the topics you want to make sure that you cover? And then you analyze the results. And you can do that in any number of ways. You can do it in an interpretive fashion, right? We talked about some of those earlier on. You could take a hermeneutical approach. You could do a content analysis. You could reduce it down to numbers and do some statistical analyses. You could do a critical analysis. So the data lend itself to a lot of different tools. So a focus group is really a tool for collecting the data and not necessarily an analysis in and of itself. So quickly, what are the pros and cons of doing one of these? Well, as I mentioned before, it's faster than individual interviews. If I want to get the feedback from 100 people, it's much easier to have 10 sessions with 10 people than to have 100 one-hour sessions. So I could have 10 hours versus 100 hours. That's a whole lot faster. I can do this not only more efficiently with time, but also with cost. So I can provide a box of donuts. And that is often enough to have people sit around and start talking about something as opposed to paying each individual a sum of money. Having the people together allows them to spur the conversation from each other in ways that individual interviews don't. And when you're in a group, it allows people to feel a little bit more comfortable. Sometimes in a one-on-one interview, it can be a little intense, right? The other person is just there kind of being grilled. There's nowhere to hide. There's no break. Whereas in a focus group, you can kind of sit back a little bit. Other people are talking, and then I'll chime in when I feel comfortable to do so. Now, what are the problems? Well, sometimes you can have over-involvement of the moderator, and what that means is that it is not a natural conversation. It is really the person who is just trying to get information. So you can steer the conversation to simply verify what you wanted to hear, which, that's not really getting honest answers. It's just getting people to agree with you. You also have, just the logistics of getting people to show up. If you've ever planned an event and you expect 50 people to show up and only like 12 show up, that's kind of a bummer, where you went through all this trouble, and so you might have to cancel your focus group session, even though 4 people are there, so you wasted their time, and so that can be a little disappointing. And the last is this idea of a spiral of silence, which essentially says that when someone is in a room and they have the what they feel is the minority opinion, so if everyone seems to agree, and I disagree with everyone is saying, I'm less likely to speak up and disagree with the group. So you might have instances in which participants in a focus group might have a different opinion, but may never express it because they don't want to feel like they are being ostracized by the group or looked at or argued with. And it may be that others actually had that opinion, but when the group seems to settle on something, people tend not to disagree. And so it may be that out of 10 people, 3 vocal individuals may agree, and it may seem like the whole group is in agreement, when in reality, 5 or 6 of them disagree, but will never speak up because it feels like the group has made a decision. So focus groups can be useful. It definitely takes some skill to conduct a conversation with a lot of people who are strangers in a room, but they definitely allow us to get information that other methods do not.